Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar on the forms and workflows inside of NITRO Studio that power up your digital workplace. We'll be going deep into the forms and workflows tools today. First, I'll give a few slides, kind of cursory overview of NITRO Studio. Some of you are familiar with it already. For some of you, this is new, so hopefully I'll cover it. And if you have any questions, you can get in touch with us, but also there is a question box in the webinar itself where you can put in questions, and James, who's on the call with me, will try and answer them during the session. Put any kind of question there, anything you want, and we'll do our best to answer it during this webinar. If not, we'll answer it by email or communicate directly. And of course, Crocan is always very interested in hearing from you and very interested in knowing what you're looking for with forms and workflows and how we can help out. So first, let me introduce myself. I am Scott Restivo, President and CEO of Crocan Software. We've been around 21 years now, since 1999, doing applications and workflows and forms and all kinds of solutions inside the Microsoft platforms. Right now, for the last 12, 15 years, we've been very heavy into the SharePoint space, a lot with the SharePoint on-premises and especially Office 365, which is certainly coming into a lot of prominence lately. So we're doing a lot on Office 365, and now also broader than SharePoint, we're also doing Teams and every other aspect of Office 365. So it's become it's grown, for Office 365, it's grown right out of SharePoint into the whole Office 365 world, or what they call Microsoft 365 now, because they did change the name recently to Microsoft 365. We're also a California certified small business, and we do a lot of business with the government of California, as well as governments throughout the world, not only national governments, military, Department of Justice and Forest Service, and things like that. We also work at the state, county, and city levels, and also at the quasi-government agencies like transportation or electric utilities and things like that, as well as every other industry. I mean, we're in education and we're in a lot of different places. It's really quite interesting over the years to see where we can go with who uses these applications and tools that come from Microsoft, very widespread, and of course, many industries of all sizes and all around the world. It's been a lot of fun doing this for the last 21 years. And, we have all intention to continue with it. And there's certainly a lot of interest in Microsoft 365 and remote work now and digital workplace, and we're right on top of that, especially Teams integration and things like that. Okay, so Crocan does business applications, out of the box ones. We have a whole set of those, about 12 or 15. We also can do custom solutions for you. We have NITRO Studio, which is our application creation platform, and that's what we'll go into deep today. And we're moving a lot into the AI and chatbot services, especially in the Teams integration world. We'll show you a little bit of that today. There has been some webinars we've been doing on bots lately, and we could probably do some more, but there are some with Teams integration, and we had Hot to Trot for a bot webinar a couple months ago. So there's a lot going on there, and we have all these resources up on our website and the video libraries and various places like that. This is some of the applications we have here. Help desk, asset management, customer service, facilities, equipment. I'm not going to read the whole list, but there's a lot there, and they serve core business practices, core business functions inside our organizations. So now getting into NITRO Studio. This is what the webinar today is about NITRO Studio, and especially about the forms and workflows. There's a lot of other aspects to NITRO Studio. It's a comprehensive application creation platform that runs in SharePoint on-premises, SharePoint 2013, 2016, 2019, and it runs inside of course, Microsoft Office 365. Either one. There's a secure version that runs, for the military, for example. There's different variations of it, but basically, we're doing a forms and workflow solutions for the Microsoft platforms, and they provide a lot of capabilities. They take SharePoint and Office 365 from being a simple, maybe document management or internet world into full business process application platforms. And we'll show you what we can do with the forms today. And now that's enough. That's all for the slides. So I'm going to go right into the demo right now. I'm not a big fan of a lot of slides unless it's that kind of webinar. So I'm going to skip right out of this and give me a moment to switch to the browser, and we'll go into that. Okay, here we go. All right. So here we are inside of the NITRO Studio. So it requires a little bit of context, a little bit of explanation if you're not familiar with it. Basically, NITRO Studio is a set of apps that we created. We're entirely Crow Canyon's work here, Crow Canyon's product. And we use this to build our custom solutions. We use it to build our applications. So our applications are what we call now Nitro Brewed applications. It's a nice way of putting it. Nitro Brewed applications, Nitro Powered applications. So all the applications have this as the foundation layer of all the capabilities inside the NITRO Studio, the forms, the workflows, the portals, and everything else that is listed here. It's quite a comprehensive set of tools, and we know what to put in there because we built this to build our own applications on top of these platforms, and so you can be pretty confident that it has what you need in it. And a lot of people are looking at this NITRO Studio for an info path replacement. A lot of people have to, there's a move, there's an end of support, end of life for InfoPath. People are using this for InfoPath replacement or any other legacy type program like that, whether Lotus Notes or old access forms or stuff like that, as well as moving from non-digital like, paper forms, whatever, to a digital situation. So NITRO Studio is very powerful. Some people come at us and they want to use this to build their own. So, okay, you get a license to use NITRO Studio and you can build your own applications out of it. You could use it. It comes with every application that we sell. So when you have one of our applications, you use the NITRO Studio to further refine and customize it for your exact particular needs. And this is how you get the digital transformation, digital workplace going from the ground up. You have to have the basic platform from Microsoft, then you have our NITRO Studio that's giving you this power to build solutions, and then you have the applications, and then you have, put it all together and you end up with a really digital transformation happening in your organization. So here's NITRO Studio. What I'm doing in this webinar, I have an access request system that I put together just as a demo, sort of as a temporary thing. I'll show you the forms and some of the workflows and custom actions that go along with that. And also show you some of our new Teams integration, which is really cool stuff in my mind, just really interesting, really, I want to show it to you even though this demo isn't specifically about the Teams integration per se. In fact, what I want to do right now before I go into this is pop up a poll and see how many people are in Office 365 versus how many are in SharePoint on premises, and I can gear the webinar a little better that way. So if you don't mind, let's just do that for a moment. Take like a minute to do the poll. I'm going to launch it right now and see the version of SharePoint you're using. It could be multiple choice. And here we go. It's open right now, so I'll give you about a minute or two on that. Well, 1 minute, really. Yeah, a couple more seconds here, maybe 10 seconds, but everybody jumping in and voting, so that's good. That's good. Thank you for that. Okay, I'm going to close right now so we keep the webinar moving along and show the results. I'll share the results for a moment. And the poll results, funny, I don't see them here, but I am sharing them. And they do show that, do you see them, James? Just curiosity, because it doesn't show up on my screen that I'm seeing this.
I do. I see a large percentage are using Office 365 and SharePoint Online, and some subset, must be some subset of that group is also still on premises in a hybrid environment, I would imagine.
Right, multiple choice, because you could be, could have both going on.
Right.
So that's good. That's kind of the trend we're seeing. I mean, years ago it was much more skewed towards the on-premises world, and now it's very much, I usually get 75% or higher on the Office 365 world, or Microsoft 365. Someday I'll get used to saying that Microsoft 365, not yet. All right, so that's a good idea. Good information. Thank you for doing that, and now we'll go right into what we're doing here. So the access request system that we have here, just a sample. Let me show you what it looks like on the SharePoint side of things. You have your access request, very simple. You have a request form. You can open up a new one, and then that will use our NITRO form right here. It's a simple NITRO form, and the way it's being designed is over here in this forms designer. So we go to the forms designer. We choose the access request list, and then the form designer for the access request list will open up And what we have going on there is many, many capabilities inside the form designer. I'll just focus on some of them in this webinar, but there are a lot of options and possibilities with this. And here you can see the form, what it looks like right here. You can have a new form, an edit form, a display form. Those are the three modes that SharePoint gives you. You can also have the same form for all three modes if you'd like. You can add new columns here if you like. You can then save it, publish it, preview it. And actually, let me show you preview because it shows it in different layouts. You know, desktop versus tablet versus mobile. So you can see what it's looked like as you build the form with using the preview function. So this is the form right here. And what we'll do today is we'll drill into what we can do to change this to take it from kind of an ordinary kind of prosaic form into a more full-featured and capable form. Now, the thing is, we can build many, many, many different kinds of forms. This is just an example. I'll get into this. Before I do, I think it'd be good to show some of the samples that we have, like in our form showcase of what we can do here. We have different forms, like here's a W4 form that was created in NITRO Studio, just kind of to show it can be done more than anything else. Here's a different kind of form. So you can see that there's many, many different types of layouts and colors and variations on this that we could do here. You know, maybe more simple examples like this. It's all done in NITRO Studio. There's also things like this we can do where we have tabs and there's, you know, different, these are all NITRO Studio forms. So what I'm going to show you is a very, you know, one where I can show things we can add so you can get a sense of how it gets to the point like this in using the NITRO Studio. These are, depends on what your needs are and, you know, what we make up for that. There's many, many ways to make the form look in that direction. And we'll do some of that with this form. So here we have an access request form that we get to play around with in this demo. This will also have custom actions and other things running behind it. So let me get going. On the left is our various layouts and themes, forms controls, actions, form settings, and advanced. And this is where you can start to modify how this form looks. You can do different themes. You can make it tabs instead of sections. You can just control a lot of how the form's laid out and what it looks like inside the layouts and themes. You can add your controls, meaning your list columns, to the form just by simply dragging and dropping them over and just popping them in there, and they can go right in there, and then you can move it around, delete it. So this is a, you know, pretty simple way to bring any column you have in your list, which is the access request list, over into the form. And if you need to create a new column, you go here and create a new column, and then it'll show up here and be able to be added to the form. You also add new sections, tables, and lines to it also in HTML content. You can also have a lot of form settings with autofill, lookup, associated items, external data, and signature path. People ask a lot about external data. We can bring in data from other sources, you know, databases or systems. And we also can use custom JavaScript and other more advanced features to run scripts that will make the form work in whatever manner you need in order to perform your function. So let's go through some simple arrangements, what's going on here. We have some forms on here, some columns on here already. You have the title, the access, type of access change, category access to, priority description. I already set some things up so that we can go sooner into the more advanced functions than on the more basic ones. Category access to are already a cascaded lookup, and they use dynamic forms. So let me show you what I mean by that. In the form itself, here's a new item. Everybody knows cascaded lookup. It's pretty easy. So depending on what choice I make here, it depends on what is chosen here in the access to. So, you know, one list depends on what's chosen in the one above it. Okay, that's pretty standard. So here, database, if I choose SQL, now we're showing some dynamic activity where this ability, this section of the SQL information shows up. If I choose a different option here, it doesn't show up. So they've got, you know, dynamic forms. Another very basic part of forms design. You got cascaded lookup. You have your dynamic forms, and also now here in this section we're seeing the request your information is automatically filled in. So that's the user info filler. So we have the cascaded lookup, we have the dynamic forms, and the user info filler already set up on this form to go, and that was done inside of our form settings here using auto fill user, lookup, And what's the other one there? The user info filler in the lookup settings, and the dynamic forms are by you do this by permissioning of what shows up in conditions. So that's all pretty standard. Now you can go in and start to change the layout of this. Say here you wanted to go into this section and you want to configure this and you want to make it 2 columns instead of 1. You know, you can do simple things like that. So you change the layout of this already. You could change the UI of that if you wanted that to be white, that section, instead of gray. You could do that, or other colors, and you could do things like that if you wanted. You can do a lot of cosmetic things. I don't spend a lot of time on things like that because those are really depend on what form, how you want the form to look. But let's start to go into some other functions here then. If you have an access request and you want to add, modify, or revoke the permissions, the requester is somebody making the request, but there has to be somebody else that we are doing it for, an employee or a contractor. So there's another field I have called employee or contractor. It can be employee or contractor. We can make these horizontal if you like, instead of vertical. So employee or contractor. So then we want, if it's employee, we want to be able to put in the employee name. So it's for the employee, and here's the employee name. If it's a contractor, we want to be able to put in the contractor information. So that'd be contractor name and the contractor company, right? But we don't want all those showing up at the same time on there. If it's employee, we want employee name to show up. If it's a contractor, we want employee name not to show up. So that's very simply done by going to here in our permissions, and we set up. So it's already set up. Good. So that means show the employee tab. The employee, when it says employer contracts equal employee, show it. When it's not, hide it. Hide it. So what will happen is when it's an employee, it will show that and hide the contractor name. When it's a contractor, it will show contractor name and company and hide the employee. Another example of dynamic forms, with the contractor name and company being 2 columns, we can go into column permissions and do those both at once with a new configuration right here that says hide contractor. We're going to hide it when the condition is the employee contractor is equal to employee. Okay, so this is doing both at once. What columns we're going to hide? We're going to hide the contractor name. Where's it right here? Down here, down the bottom. Contractor name and contractor company. So you can do 2 at once in this case. So we're hiding that, and then we're going to do a new configuration to show contractor. There, and that's going to be when the condition is employee and the contractor are equal to contractor. Got that spelled right. Yeah, I should do it. Okay. So, got to select the columns, and there we go, and there we go. So that, it's done by doing multiple permissions at once, and we go here and publish this. We now start to see some changes on this form that are starting the process of modifying it to get to the place you need to go and what you want your form to look like. All kinds of different forms here that you can do and what you want to look like. So let's cancel this and go to new item and see if that is actually working here. It should default to employee. It does. And you see the employee name. I go to contractor. Ooh, okay. Employee name is hidden anyway. So let's go over to look at that form there and see what the permission was that is wrong here. But it's supposed to say hide it and show it. Hide it when employee contractor. Oh, dynamic. That's why I got to do that. It reminded me of that earlier. You always have to do dynamic, so it happens in real time. It's easy to forget those things. Okay, so go to publish, and then confirm that, and it'll happen now in real time because that was dynamic forms permission. It has to be, it can happen after the forms close or in real time. So let's go here, and there we go. So we got employee or contractor showing up, and this name is actually drawn from a list, another list in SharePoint. And if I choose the name, it's going to pop in the contractor's company at the same time. Now, you could have this going out to a database and pulling in database information or other information about the contractor. It could be also about a project. Maybe you're doing access requests because of a certain project. So it could be project name and information about the project, so the access is related to that project or that event or that incident. Now I'm focusing on access requests, but this, you have to use imagination. Any kind of business process, whether it's purchasing, support, HR, just have to choose something to do a demo, right? So what we're doing here is show it in the access request. So one more feature of this that we can do here, and now that we have that in there, is we can add in dates. Date of how long is this person going to have this access? So let's look at that. Date of access, start date, end date, all that stuff of access. Now, rather than put this right here, what I can do actually is create another section on this form, add a section. I can move that section to where I want it to be, right here, say above priority. And then I can start to put fields in here. So I'll say dates of access go here. And then I can put start date, move it around, start date, and I can put end date in here too. So date of access, start date, end date. And in fact, I'll move this one up. I'm in that section, move it there. So date of access looking like that. And then I can go here to configure this section, and I could say, let's make it none, no line at all. And we'll publish that and see what that looks like. Let's publish that. Confirm. So you can also do preview. I mean, I keep publishing it, but you could just do preview too and see what it looks like here. Let's open that up. We now have dates of access, temporary, perpetual, temporary, like that. But maybe we want to change that a little bit. We want to make this, we want to be these in line with each other. So in that case, we would do this. We would go to a table and make a 1x2 table like this. Add that table to the section where we want it to go, right here. We can move these around quite easily. And then what we do here is take these off, take this off, and put the start date in there and the end date in here. Now you're starting to use the table function, and you can move this around if you like and make it smaller. I'll show you some more stuff on this later on how to do tables. All the kind of cool features you can do with tables. So that's one feature we have is the table feature inside of there. So we go here to new request, and now it becomes more like this. And of course, with more time, I could train, the layouts and move this over and put the right padding in, because you can do a lot with that table. You can also have the table itself, this section, be a different color. Also, you can have it show up. Well, in this case, this is what we're going to do here, actually. We are going to do this. We're going to say this. I only want this section to show up when the type of access is changed, because if it's modifying or revoking, there's no dates of access, it's ending. Or if it's modifying, so you can adjust the form according to the business process needs and make it that much easier for the user to enter information they need and only the information they need. So if we're in this configure of this section, we can go over to permissions of this and do the same kind of thing we did previously. Again, I'm going to check dynamic before I add. So we're going to hide dates. Well, let's start with show dates. Show dates, start date. So we're going to add that, and that's going to be when the type of access change equals to add. So I'm going to show it when it's adding. When you're revoking it, you don't know. So then we're going to do the opposite, which is to say hide dates when the conditions are type of access is not equal to add. Okay, let's see if this works. Publish this one, confirm. So, this is the kind of thing you can do to manipulate and change the form and get it really in line with your business processes. And I could go on and on with that kind of change and modification to the form to get it to look the way we want. Let's first make sure that's all kosher. So if I say add here, it adds that section in, right? Dates of access, the whole section at once. And so start date, end date of this person's, perpetual, you just put nothing for the end date. For temporary, you'd want both in, start date, end date. It's default into now. So that's the kind of thing you can start to embed business processes in the actual form itself, so that the user only has to fill in the information they need, and the process is further along because there's a lot of extra information in the form itself that you have to contend with, right? So let's do a few other things here and keep moving along. One thing you can do with another thing that I can show you in this is that we can have associated tasks. So you have this form going, and you want to add in tasks that are related to it, associated tasks. So you can come here and add this associated task capability down the bottom or wherever you want. It could be on a new tab if you wanted. Just put it someplace for now. Come here. Drop column here. Where is it? Right here. Come on. There it goes. They're associated tasks. And that would be, what I'm going to do? I'm actually put that in a new section. So I'm going to add a section to this form over here. A new section down the bottom right here. And I'm going to put this in its own section and move it down over here to the bottom more. And then put the associated task in that section. And then I'm going to change the alignment of this section. Here it is. Configure this so that it's a vertical vertical alignment of the label. And now we have associated task in here, and this will show any tasks that are associated to access request. So it might be a SQL server revoking, and you have to send a task to the SQL administrator to make the actual change in the that becomes a task. Now, several things about this that happen with the workflows. Let's go through this. If your date of access is temporary and the end date is coming up, say the end date is June 30th, the workflows will send out a notice to whoever's in charge. You can decide who it is. It could be the manager or the DBA or whatever. Remember to revoke Charlie's or whatever, this person's, the employee or the contractor's rights. So the end date becomes useful if it's a temporary, so you can check, the workflow would check. If it's temporary and the end date is June 30th, 1 day before, 1 week before, 2 weeks before, whatever, even after, it can say, send a message to whomever is the appropriate party, which you determine maybe it's the manager here or the DBA or a group even, that would go in and get a notice that they need to reminder, I guess you call it, to revoke those rights. And the same thing with these tasks down the bottom. So it might become a task. Say revoke rights becomes a task, and the person keeps getting reminders about those tasks. So we keep everything moving along by having these processes in place about custom actions, about workflows, everything else to keep people notified, reminded of every event that's related to this particular item that we're doing. The access request, you got to add. Was it added? Was it not added? It has to be added by a certain date. Start date's in 2 weeks, so it has to be added before they start. This kind of thing. Go on with this form here to make it work that way. So continuing along with this, there's much more I can do. I'd like to show more with the tables. That would be, I don't want to take up all the time with the tables, because I want to show some other processes that we can do here. And that is one of the main functions of a request management system is approval. So, part of the workflow would be, okay, you have this need to approve it, and there's a submit button. So when a person submits it, it goes through an approval process here. So let's take a look at that. So we have a new item. Of course, it's got to be set up on who you want to approve when on what. And the approval levels can be very, very granular. You can do it on whatever items. It could be the location, the type of request, the amount of money, the whatever criteria you want to put in and different levels of approval. We have an advanced approval app inside our NITRO Studio that will do more advanced approvals. We have sets of custom actions and workflows that can do approval. We have different approval definitions we can do here to make it so that there's a level 1 approval, level 2, level 3. Is it serial? Is it parallel? We get very sophisticated with the approval levels based on information that's either in here or not. I mean, if what I mean by not in the form, you could determine like, okay, what I mean is this. You can connect, when you load the form, you can connect to outside databases or use REST API and get information from them that can be used in the form for various purposes, such as doing calculations or setting up certain dates or certain information that's pulled in from those databases into the form. A little hard to show in a demo, but the point is that these there's information that we're getting not only in the form itself, but from external sources. What is that? External sources that will yeah, I know. I heard some dinging, so I don't know what that means, but I think we're okay, right? So external sources in order to use in the further processing. You know, we are here to facilitate business processing, and we do it. Okay, so let's go here. So give James access to SQL Server. Okay, so we're going to add, and it's going to add the data of ASK. It's perpetual. We're going to start today. There's no end date. If we wanted, we can make it temporary. The employee's name is James, and the category is database, and the one is SQL. So now we get the section down here, which is SQL section, and we can put SQL 1, database 1, and he needs read and write permissions to it, and his manager is Pavan. So then we're going to submit it, right? Submit the request. It's going. It's going over to Pavan. So I happen to be logged in as Pavan over here. Where's Pavan? Over here, mail, Pavan. Pavan over here in his mailbox in Outlook, it got 2 emails. I mean, we set it up to do this. One says, you know, every time there's a database request, he's given the information, you know, so whoever you want can be sent any email about an access request, you know, just notification. And we did it in a nice HTML table here saying what this person needs, James access to SQL Server. So that's not approval, of course. That is just saying to whoever wants to be notified that there is a new request, and you can go here and do whatever work's needed on it. You can do that with tasks, you can do it with purchasing, you can do it with HR. I mean, this is just keeping people informed through email about what's going on. But this is where he's the approver. Now, he has gotten this email, Pavan, that he needs to give James access to, you know, he can approve or deny it. So he's given this question, and then he could approve or deny it and add some comments in if he wants or whatever to look at it. He can look at the item itself and say, okay, I'm going to approve it. Oh, I have to put some values in here. Yes, I agree with this access. And realize that was acquired. Well, it doesn't have to be required, but in this case it was for some reason, not sure. Then it's processing this and making the changes. And you don't have to show this screen. This is one of our things in custom actions. You don't have to show it. But James was just notified that his request was approved, and then it could launch off some workflows that say create a task for the DBA to go add those permissions in. You know, all kinds of workflows can kick off using our system of workflows and custom actions. So you see in the NITRO Studio, there are workflows and there are custom actions that are furthering the process of this form. So in the form itself, you can add in buttons and say, for instance, submit button. You can add scripting in here. You can add custom actions from our custom actions list. The custom actions list is here in custom actions for this list. You go here, custom actions, access request. And these are custom actions we've set up here in this form. So one of them is submit for approval. So the form is calling that custom action in order to enact the processes that are needed in order to move it into form Pavan and go through the whole process of the approval situation here. But there's other ones in here, other custom actions that are going on. And we'll go into those in a moment once we're done with the approved, disapproved situation. There's also the workflows that we have going, and workflows can also do a lot, you know, send emails or invoke other workflows. And let's take a look at this, what the workflows can actually do. So when you set up these workflows or custom actions, the difference is custom actions are initiated usually by the user pressing a button. Workflows are initiated by some system event happening, such as items created, it's modified, it's deleted, or there's some scheduled time it happens. What can you do with the workflows? A lot. Let's put it that way. Running them when items created under certain conditions or any conditions, this was when its access is equal to SQL, it's going to run this notify staff. That's a very basic action of alerting and notification. It can do a lot more. It could add another list item. It could update a list item. It could delete a list item. It could send a mail. That's what it's doing right now. It can move the item. It can query lists, get variables that are used in later processing of the workflow. It can manage permissions, set up permissions on this item or other items in a list. It can invoke other workflows, and when it does invoke other workflows, it could be NITRO workflows or, well, now they call it Power Automate, but Microsoft Flow. It can invoke from our Crocan system. That's why we call it Best Friends Forever. We did a webinar on that. NITRO and Flow at the time was called Best Friends Forever. The idea is that we can invoke flows, and I'll show you one. I can show you the ones if I have time later, where we take the access request is submitted, it generates a document, and that document is saved to OneDrive using Flow. It's all kinds of cool stuff. Just let us know what you need to do. I mean, we can do it. Invoke another workflow, a web service, and Teams. We got Teams stuff happening now where you can create a Teams channel and send a mail to Teams. So a workflow could actually create a Teams channel or send a message really to a Teams channel. Maybe you don't want to inform people by email. You want to inform them on the team. You say on the channel. You say, okay, new request has come in from James, and it's right there in Teams. I'll show you that in a moment. So that's what I want to go over, and I'm gonna jump into that approved disapprove process using Teams now. I showed we were in the access request system. We submitted a request, give James access, went through the approval process by sending an email to Pavan. Pavan approved it, and now it's approved, and you can see it's all ready to be generate task or whatever's needed to do it. But there's another way to do it, and for that I have to switch over to a more demo environment because this is new stuff we're just coming out with right now. So let's go here to this one right here, this demo. Now, this is about Teams integration. Okay. Let's make sure we can get to Teams using this, Teams. This is a web-based Teams. Bad request. What's bad about that request? I know what's going on with that. Waffle Teams. Come on. There it goes. I don't know what it was before. Oh, that's right. I'm in incognito and I can't use it. I got to go over to this other browser here. Sorry about that. Here it is. IT Pro. Oh, Edge. That's right. I was doing it in Edge. Sorry. Chrome, Edge, you got all these browsers all over the place. Anyways, I shut off third-party cookies. No, I mean, incognito mode inside of Chrome shuts off, blocks third-party cookies by default. So that's why what's going on there. But so I opened up Edge instead and doing all this inside of Edge. Okay, got it. Yeah, okay. Okay, so here we are in Teams. Here's a team, channels, chat, bots, all that kind of stuff, right? We have, and this is a whole cool thing, a whole webinar in itself, which we did recently and can do again, about the self-service bot, about the staff support bot, and you can go here and say, help, hello, bot, hi, bot, how are you today? And it's going to say, well, end user, Mr. End User, we want to, what do you want? What can I help you with? Do you want to select an application, such as submit a request or a query about HR, or about access request, about IT? Do you want to look at the ones you already have? Do you want to search? Do you want to have a question? Or you have a question or issue? Anyways, that's the bot side of the thing. But that's not what it's going to show you. That's another whole thing in itself, how we can interact with the self-service bot. What I'm going to show you here is that you're in your application and you create a new ticket. This is just a demo environment, so it's a little funky, but it's just a simple form is what I mean. So you're going to commit, you're going to say order supplies for the trade show in Chicago. No, well, used to go to trade shows anyway, but maybe we will again. So LA show is October 2020. And need supplies, right? So you want to know, the cost might be $1,200 or something. And the approver is again Pavan. So we're going to save this. And now what's going to happen is that we submitted a request just like we did in the other system. The self-service bot has now informed Pavan directly in Teams that he can approve, deny, or send this back. We create this in our workflows and give this option in Teams with Teams integration to approve, deny, or send it back, for more information. Right here, it's given some information about the request that was just made, who made it. Pavan in is Pavan, so Pavan's also the requester. What the cost, what description. You can view the actual request itself, and then you can decide whether you want to approve or deny it. Works beautifully in Teams and also on mobile devices. When you're on Teams and mobile devices, you can come in here and approve or deny it, bada bing. So this is like our Teams integration. This is a very sophisticated use of Teams integration that we're doing here. We have the self-service bot where you can query using natural language processing and get answers to your question. You can use a staff support bot where the staff is going in. I showed that in the last webinar a week or two ago in the Teams integration webinar. And if you're interested, get in touch with us and we'll show you it directly one-on-one. Now we've added a new feature to Teams integration where we're sending back from the workflow inside of NITRO Studio to Teams saying, hey, Pavan, someone just made a request that needs your approval. They're not have to look in their email. They go right in Teams and they can say, oh, look, somebody, normally it'd be a different person than Pavan. Maybe James would ask for this or I would ask for it. And then the Pavan as the manager can say, I approve this, I deny, I'm turning it down, or I'm sending it back. This is all configured easily in many, many different ways inside of our workflow manager. You could send out something like, say you're an IT support group. At the end of it, you have a ticket that you want the user to confirm that it's resolved. So say, hi, end user, Billy, whatever, hi, Billy. We believe your request is resolved, but please confirm it. And the user could be, no, it's not fixed yet, or yes, I confirm it. And then when you press that, it can run a workflow. Pushing this button will invoke one of our workflows that then goes and closes that ticket, or in this case, runs the approval process that's necessary to do it. So we're integrating fully. That's why we call it Microsoft 365 applications, NITRO powered, rather than SharePoint specifically. Now, if you're on premises, it's a little different, of course, because you're on Teams. But if you're in Office 365, this is the direction Microsoft's going in, and Crokin's going also, is that Teams is becoming much, much more the interface for interacting with the back-end application of SharePoint, the SharePoint list. And here you can see the kind of power and capabilities that are being expressed inside our Teams integration. You have not only the self-service bot here that can, where the user can open up a request and start and get some query first, or this other option where they're sending it back and saying, can you approve or deny this? So it's quite a powerful set of features going on here. In addition to this, we have the staff support bot where staff can come in and say, do all these different things that they can do, view their assigned requests, unassigned requests, open up a request, create a request. And pretty soon we're going to have the ability within, let's say you have an IT support channel in Teams, you can query and say, what's the status of case number 125, 1234? Who's working on 1234? And it'll give you back that information because it's querying the back-end list. So Teams is becoming more and more the front-end portal and through these bots that we're creating for the back-end system. Okay, I hope that's clear that there's a SharePoint-based list with all the functionality and custom actions and workflows, and you can work entirely in that. If you're on premises, it's beautiful. It works fine, no problems. But if you're moving into Office 365 space and Microsoft's pushing this whole thing of Teams, and then what's that dinging? I don't know. Then what happens is you can use it. Our Teams integration will move you very, very strongly along in that direction. And we're coming out with a lot of there's a lot of stuff percolating right now onto what can be done inside of Teams and where we can go with this. It's quite an active place of work for us that we're going. So anyways, we're back on this NITRO form on the back end. And there are certainly not everything can be done in Teams because there's only so much of an interface you can create. So you still have the use for forms. And also if you're doing info path replacement, you're doing access form replacement, you have certain regulatory compliance things to go with, then you need to create a form that is exactly according to what you need. Let me show you some examples of things like that. So nothing's embarrassing on this. Let's see. Come on up. Hello. I don't know. It's not opening up. It's going to show you some things in Snagit that I had captured off the web. Oh, here we go. Finally woke up. All these kind of forms. Let me drag it over. These kind of forms, there's forms all over. I mean, look around, right? Forms everywhere. Sometimes you have to create these exactly. So we can do this inside of NITRO Studio. I'm talking about teams as a way of facilitating or making better the functionality that we have in our SharePoint applications by giving a different kind of interface that uses some level of AI and natural language processing and automation to make the process even simpler. But, here we are, even with the NITRO Studio that we have, the NITRO Forms Designer, there's a tremendous amount of capabilities that way above what's possible in paper and other types of systems, that you have dynamic capabilities, mobile capabilities. You can make different processes and workflows and custom actions run depending on what selections are made. I mean, it's a whole system in and of itself. Okay, these are the kind of forms that may have to be replicated exactly or fairly close to exactly, and we can do that inside of our system. And, if you, oh yeah, I got to show you the signature pad. I'll do that before we end the webinar. We only have about 15 minutes, but see, all these kind of forms can be created inside of our NITRO Studio. So, the basic thing is let us know what you need as far as forms. It will help you get off info path replacement. I mean, we'll help you replace info path or other forms or facilitate the automation of certain processes that are kind of stuck in the path or stuck in paper forms. We are considered, and this is no brag, just fact, as they say, experts in the info path replacement world. We have ebooks on it. We've done webinars galore. I used to give talks when we used to go around to conferences on the info path replacement. I mean, we're deeply steeped in this whole world of info path replacement as well as forms in general. So, this is what we do, night and day, literally. It's literally night and day, actually. So, it's what we do, and we can help you do it. So let me show you something else about this forms while I'm here. I wanted to show you something. Now, I'm in a demo, and I'm adding things. Of course, in a real world, you'd be a little more, made me want this here, that there. So I'm just showing it so what can be done. So I'm going to go here and add another section here at the bottom. And we put another section here because I want to show you the signature capabilities before we end this webinar. People will ask about that. Signature. Here we go. Signature. And signatures here. Now we have a signature, and that can be signed inside. Let's look at the preview. It can be signed inside of a desktop, or it could be inside of the tablets or whatever. You just go in here and sign it. Well, a preview won't show it, but if I publish this, you can go in here and sign it. But before I publish it, I want to do something else. You may want to put something here. Line, I think this is pretty cool. You can put a line HTML here, but I'm going to put in some. Let's copy and paste a little bit here from. Let me copy and paste from the other side of things, and copy. And I can go in here into HTML of this and dump in some text that is boilerplate kind of text, and put it here, and it's going to show up there. So, in certain formats. So let me go ahead and publish that, and you'll see what I mean, how we're getting these forms closer and closer to the ones that we're just looking at a moment ago there. Where's this access request? We open up a new item. Somebody may have to sign off on an access request or a purchase or something like that. Who knows, right? Here we go. And see the text I put in is there. The signature's here, blah, 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 and then you could submit it or whatever, save it, so the signature capabilities, put in some text on there, regulatory, might require you to have the information on there so that you can have it, all kinds of ways you can do that. Another thing I'll show, and then we'll get into questions in a moment with the forms here, is that you can have more fancy stuff at the top here. So for instance, in our edit form, we have the ID at the top, for example, right here. So if you preview that, you're going to see in one of these forms what it looks like. Access request number 4, you put ID up there, things like that, or other information to that helps convey what the what is up there. And also, as you saw in one of those forms that I just showed you, there's like a logo here, a logo, all this stuff up at the top, and all these kind of construct. I'll show you a little bit of what we can do with that with this new access form, the new form. And again, I'll pop in some code I have already, and this is all HTML. Where is it? It's here somewhere, I think. the code to the, here it is right here, copy over into this section called the line HTML. We go to the HTML little thing and we go here and paste in some HTML. Now, if you're good at HTML, you can, or actually you can copy it from other places and things like that. You can do lots of really interesting things with this. I just did a simple, put a logo up there, you know, big whoop, but it is kind of cool. You know, you have a logo up there now. So when you publish it, you have that. And a lot of other things you can do to make that title or the top section really interesting. You can change different colors, put little hyperlinks up there, you know, whatever is, you know, matches what you need to do in your forms. Okay, so that's kind of a deep dive into the forms tool. But then again, there's still a lot I haven't even covered. In the advanced sections, you know, you can do custom JavaScript, custom CSS. You can do a lot when the form event actions, when certain things happen on the form, such as when it's loaded or when it's changes are made to it. You can have certain actions take place and certain things happen because of that. You can put script, you can put buttons in the middle of the form if you like, or at the top of it. You can have your, here we are in the access request system. If you open one up, let's go James' one. We have a bunch of custom actions that are sitting there ready for the person to use. They could escalate it. They could assign it to somebody else. These are custom actions from NITRO Custom Actions. They can print it out. They can have the escalate action right here on the button, on the form itself, wherever you want it. That's determined in our custom actions where you want the button to show up. You could generate a document that is a Word doc or PDF, and then that becomes an attachment on this. You decide it becomes an attachment on this form. So now we just generated a document. Here it is, attached to that form. Here it is, you know, so whatever you want this to look like. It's the PDF is attached. And then what I was going to show you about the flow situation is that once this is attached, you can save the attachment to OneDrive. I don't know if the connection is still here in this demo, but it would save this up to OneDrive, particular OneDrive area you wanted to save it to, notify the person that it's been there. So you might do an access request or a training or something like that, and you have the certificate, you need to upload it, generate it, and upload it to OneDrive. So that used the flow, by the way, to send to OneDrive. I mean, they call it Power Automate now. These forms are incredibly powerful tool, the NITRO Studio forms and workflows. I run this, I do this a lot. I'm still amazed every day what you can do with these things and how we can match the real needs of real organizations out there and help them automate their business processes and bring the digital workplace into reality. And not only what we're doing with these forms, what we're doing with the Teams integration is awesome. And the bots are awesome too. We also can work inside of web interfaces such as this portal. You know, this is a very basic portal kind of thing where you have a kind of internet looking thing and you make your access requests through here if you don't want to do Teams. Oh, oops, that's expired. Remember to check that before the demo next time. Anyway, so there's different, just so many things, different things you can do. And I hope this, you know, it's good information here. But before we go, James, any questions that I can address?
Yeah, we actually have quite a few.
Let
me pull back up here, so try to pick and choose a few of the good ones. They're all great questions, of course, but
yeah, correct.
So let's see. Question about responsiveness. Did you show the responsiveness preview on the Forms Designer?
Yeah, there is. Yes, it's totally responsive design. It's built right in from the beginning. Is that there is this you know, responsive, and of course you can design it like you might put this logo a little smaller. I mean, right? I didn't design this for mobile, but you could right there and even have the signature on the mobile device, as well as the list of tickets and the access request system itself. If this is the modern UI, it should be able to be shrunk down to see what it looks like in the mobile devices. No, it's not. That's not modern, right? No, Exit Classic. Yeah, it says Exit Classic. So if I go to modern design, then you should be able to see that, you know, what it looks like as we switch down to, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And that actually ties in nicely with the next question about you know, it working on the modern design, because they're noticing that the demo was in classic, but they want to confirm that works in modern.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I should have done the demo probably modern right away, but you know, modern, classic, I know it works in both. So one or the other. But here we are in a modern right now, right?
Yep. And then there's a question about the workflows as far as having them ordered. You have one workflow, you have two workflows on the same create item event. And I think the answer there is you can't really order the workflows themselves, but you can order the actions within a workflow. So you can put all the actions you want to do should be in one workflow.
Yeah, we call it a workflow, but a workflow consists of multiple actions. I mean, there's many actions you can add here. You can have 10 or 20 different actions, if you wanted. And each action,
each one could be.
Yeah.
You're going to say the same thing, I think.
I think each one could be according to certain conditions,
That's it. Yeah.
Yep. So you might have 3 people you want to notify, but you notify, three notify staff, but you notify different people depending on different conditions, or you might run different actions. It's a little, I know the word workflow and the word action kind of overlap with each other a little bit because there's actions in the workflow and the workflows in but the point, we look at it this way. When we say a NITRO workflow, it's the comprehensive set of actions that occur. It's a group of actions, whether it's one or many, that runs based on some trigger.
Right, on that event or that time or whatever it might be.
I call it a trigger. The trigger could be like an event. It could be a date time, like the due date's coming up or end date's coming up or the contract's coming up for renewal or past or something like that. And, yeah, okay, good.
And then one last question we have in here that I didn't get a chance to, actually a couple questions. One I'll jump to first because I didn't get a chance to answer it yet, but it was about attachments. And the question was, can you upload an attachment to a separate document library? And the question 2, can you have it attached to the actual list item? And the answer is yes to both. You can do either way.
That's right. That's right. Okay, good.
Yeah. So in the form itself, you can have a link through that associated items feature to a document library, and just when they add new document, they'll just be uploading that document to that document library, and there'll be an automatic connection to that parent item based on the lookup from the document library to that parent list.
Yeah, it's really something I didn't cover much at all, but all of these, and we do this a lot in our asset management and ticketing and contract renewal systems. Each item in the SharePoint list can be connected with a document. So you can have a lot of related items that are related to each other. We do that all the time. And those documents, there's a correlation between, say, the asset and the warranties, licenses, and support agreements. There's that kind of thing, right? You can imagine all kinds of scenarios like that.
And do you want to show the floating attachments feature? I missed it if you showed it during the webinar.
No, I didn't, and I can. What that means is that if you have, let's just use a field. I could create a new field, but a field that already exists. Say you want to put upload attachments in the middle of your form. So you go here and you just go here, convert column type to attachments. And whatever button text you want to put, you do that, and all of a sudden this becomes instead of being a multi-line of text, it becomes this an attachment. In fact, what I do here is this thing, I override display name with add attachments. Add policy doc or something like that, right?
Yeah. And you can have multiple fields like that on your form. So you have multiple, you can have as many attachment fields on your form as you want, and those all get attached to the item itself. So they'll all be in the items attachments, but they'll be displayed on the form as being related to the field on which they're uploaded here. So if you have 5 or 6 forms that you need someone to upload to a form for processing, whatever it might be that you're processing, it will allow that user to upload a document, see that they've uploaded that document, and anyone else coming in looking at that form will see that the user uploaded a document to that field and know that there's 4 other fields where they didn't upload the document, and those might be pending.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So, the other thing I was going to point out more is like tables. You can do a lot with tables, and each cell has different characteristics you can do with it. Cell properties. You can put in many different, what the background should be or not be, things like this. And I didn't, because it's only an hour, the webinar, I didn't go into all the details of how you can do things like this with the form, you know.
And I think there's one final question about column level user permissions. I think you touched on it earlier, but it might be worth revisiting that column level user permission, column permissions feature.
Which one was that, James?
Column level user permissions. So I think when we're talking about adding those permissions to show and hide columns,
all right.
about
So you
that
have a column
context.
like this right here, right? I'm just going to hide the display name, the label. So, okay, apply that for a moment. So, all right, so you have here permissions. So you're talking about adding a permission here for maybe only a particular user or group will see it, you know?
Right.
Not a user group or a person in a particular column would see it, whether show, hide, or read only. Not only can make a whole section, you can make each individual column show, hide, read only based on who it is. There's actually two things going on here. One is who it is, and the other is what conditions, you know. So you can say show hide according to who you are, who's logged in, or the conditions that are there, right?
That's right. Yeah, so there's a lot you can really have it very nuanced and specific to the scenario to hide or show that column, or make it read only.
That's right.
In our approval workflows, we do that frequently, where you can't change columns because it's read only, and you can only approve it if you're the designated assignee for that approval task. So that's all done through the forms and forms tool.
Yes.
I think there was another question about the signature field in Teams, and I think the answer is that the signature field only really works on the NITRO form. We can take an approval through Teams, but I don't think we can take the signature at this point.
That's kind of interesting, James. I wonder if that is.
It's already on our list to investigate.
Yes. Let's do that. Let's investigate that. Do that, you know, because that's something that I think is that's why we've got to get feedback from people as to what they need or what they're looking for in these kind of systems, you know.
Right. I think that was it for questions. I answered a few other ones. Well, there's a couple we'll get back to folks on, so we'll be able to address them offline. I think that's it. If anyone else has any questions, they pop into the box now, would be great. I know we're a little bit over time, but we're happy to answer questions. You can choose follow-up email and all that too if we don't get to it on this webinar.
Yeah, I'm just fooling around with the table here to show, like, you know, capabilities that could be done by the table situation here. You know, you just go HTML, change it around to description. You always run out of time on these webinars, but I hope people will get in touch and say, hey, this is what I need. I think what you have is pretty cool. We can, you know, use it, or at least let's talk about it and see how we can help out with whatever you're doing here in your, you know, move towards digital workplace, digital transformation off of old forms, the old legacy, you know, systems, and move towards a more efficient way of doing things. And you know, to have a lot, you know, some fun with this. And if you're a designer or a developer, then, you know, developer style, a power user, you can use our NITRO Studio. If you're more interested in our out-of-the-box applications as they go and just want to tweak them a bit and talk to us about a real solution that we can replace like really quickly, then we can do that. Or a custom solution that has particular requirements, and we can discuss those and then put those in place. And then if you're interested in the bots and the Teams integration and all that, that's an area we're really doing a lot of groundbreaking work on in that world. And everyone wants to join us in that, you're more than welcome. And this kind of feedback, like you're saying, team signatures, you know, that's something that is, you know, there it goes on the dev schedule. What can we do? How can this happen? And make it part of the possibly, I'm not saying guarantee, but part of our process going forward. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes over. I keep playing around this for another hour, but I won't keep everybody on. And I think that's it for questions, right, James?
Yep, that's it for now. There's a few we'll follow up with, but yeah.
Okay, let me get back to the PowerPoint just to end it cleanly. And we have some upcoming webinars. Next week is Automate HR Requests with a Bot. hot to trot for an HR bot. I don't know, whatever you want to call it there, the Billy bot. We got this bots going for HR requests, and it'll be interesting to see how that works in Teams. And this is about project management, or June 18th, specifically about our project management tool. And then we have thank you for attending with some contact information. We're on, you can send an email to sales, or give us a call, we'll check out our website. I'd be glad to hear from you. All right. Well, thank you, James, for helping out. And everybody have a good day, stay safe, and hope to hear from you and how we can help you with your business process needs and where you're going with your organization. So take care. Have a good rest of the day. Okay.